Let's move to the next topic. Barrister, this Russian flag, Shegun has been hammering on that. First, let me ask you the legal from the legal question there before I go into the real question. Is it illegal for someone to fly a foreign flag in Nigeria?
Let me first talk about my own understanding of the issue of the Russian flag in the protest. Remember that the issue started in Kano.
Yes.
Before it came down to Kaduna. The first place where the Russian flag was flown was during the protest was in Kano. Then in subsequent days, it manifested in Kaduna. My own understanding, and I believe the issue is being overflowed, and the issue is something that the government want to catch and use, because they, on the government side, want to use anything to suppress protests. But I think the issue has been overflowed, has been overstated, because the rationale, if you know what's happening in Mali, in
Niger and Burkina Faso.
Niger and Burkina Faso, these three countries have their governments overthrown and are ruled by military rule, and they have expelled Western forces, US and French forces from their territory, and they brought in Russian support in all the three of them. And you know, the northern parts of the country have affinity with Niger and Mali. And the people who are ruling there are young.
Barrister, sorry to cut you short. What I expected was, I asked you a specific question. I expected a specific answer. What is wrong? Is it illegal for me? Let me use me as an example. For me to go to Nigeria and fly a foreign flag, either maybe as a tailor.
It's not. I was coming to that, but since you want a direct answer, I will tell you it's not illegal. It's not illegal to hold a foreign flag in Nigeria.
So
it is, how is that reasonable to fight under a foreign flag? Those are different things. I can hold a Russian flag or American flag in my office. I can hold it on my person. It's not reasonable. But acting against the Federal Republic of Nigeria under a foreign flag is reasonable. So you will now choose to see the protesters holding the foreign flag. Were they acting against the interests of Nigeria? That is the question. If you decide that while holding the foreign flag, they were acting against the interests of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that would be treasonable. But if you come to the conclusion that it was symbolic, we have freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is not just in word. It can be in graphics. It can be in mementos. It can be in writing. It can be by way of speech. It can be by way of holding a photograph. These are all part of freedom of speech. So it is a legal issue, a technical issue, whether holding a flag. But I can tell you, I can put a flag, a Russian flag, in my office on my table, and that will not be treasonable. That is not illegal. But the actions I take under that flag, if they are against the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that becomes treasonable. So I want to make that distinction. But for the government, morally, it shows lack of nationalism. It shows lack of patriotism, but it's not criminal. Let's get that clear.
All right. Before I say something, let me ask Shegun. What, when you saw that the flag the Russian flag or flags being flown around across Nigeria, what was your thought? What came to your mind? What actually did you think was in the mind of those behind it?
All right. For me, like the barrister said, I think I have a clearer picture of the issues now, because I kept asking the question, what about people who fly flags of other countries in hotels and in schools, and people who hang some foreign flags on their cars? Would that amount to being unpatriotic, or probably that they have anything wrong? But with the explanation that barrister has given, there's nothing wrong with it, but except, of course, if you follow it with a message. If you listen to the boys who were flying who were carrying those flags and marching with it, they kept saying in Hausa that it is the military that we want. Now, people, the attention was divided. Why? Because people were saying, is it the military, the Nigerian military that they're talking about? But holding the flag, of course, and by proxy, with the explanation that the barrister has given, knowing what is happening in neighboring countries around the north, if they are saying that they want the military, are they saying that they want a coup in Nigeria, and they want a coup that would bring in the Russian government so that they would, whatever it is that we have now will be washed away? So what came to my mind was insurrection. I don't think it is right. I think it is within our rights for us to protest as Nigerians, but I don't think it is within our rights to call on another country to come. I don't know what it is that the idea would be, to take over the government, topple the government of Nigeria, like they did in those other countries where they occupy presently, which was not said. The only thing that was said is we want the military. They did not say that they want the Russian military. They said they want the military. So my thought would be that they want the Nigerian military to take over, because that is what they kept saying. It is you, Kumukeso, Kumukeso. It is you that we want. What came to my mind? Insurrection. For me, it is wrong. That is not the approach for this particular protest. That is not how to press home your demands.
Yeah, but that's my point. What do you expect when a protest has so many, the focus of the protest has an octopus direction, that it is directionless, just all angle, whatever. What do you expect?
It is not directionless. You said something earlier on that I want to key into.
All right.
You said that you are absolutely sure, to a certain extent, to a certain degree, that there are people within the government who infiltrated the protests. And I agree with you 100%, because I knew that when they saw that it was going to be difficult to control people, they kept coming out. If you've watched what happened in Kaduna, in Abuja, and in Kano, and some other northern parts, you would notice that people were the crowd keep growing by the day. The first day was a bit not too that electric, but the second day, a lot of people joined in. Taxi drivers were joining in. Every other person was joining in. They were parking their cars and joining in. By the third day, it was so loud and almost wild. But we knew that these things would happen. Even if you're speaking with one voice, we saw it happen during the NSAS protest, where people came out and they were protesting and they refused to leave the grounds where the police had said, leave. They said they were not going to leave. What did they do? They imported thugs. And I can tell you authoritatively from here that some people were also paid, just like this particular protest. Those people that you see that were withdrawing from the protest were not just withdrawing because they wanted to withdraw, or probably because they thought something good or bad or nasty would happen. They withdrew because they were being paid. Some of the groups said that they have submitted whatever it is that is their grievance to the president. They expect him to act on it. So therefore, they're not participating in the protest. But a lot of people, some of us went on to participate in the protest, not because we expect that the governor or the president will change overnight. No. It is to put him on notice, to say, look, we know that you are doing this, and we are capable of also doing what we're doing now and doing it massively. And that was why I said, once you put it in a particular direction, it is easy to shut you down. very easy to shut you down. The only aspect that I don't support is other people coming out to now drive the narratives in a different direction. People are talking about the general anchor for this protest is hunger. And you saw people come out. But I don't see the relationship between hunger and you looting people's property and attacking innocent people who are probably standing by and watching, or dragging people to come join your protest. It is wrong.
All right.
So,
all right. Thank you so much for that. Now back to Barrister. We are still on this Russian issue.
Allow me to emphasize a point.
Yes.
We keep trying to separate protesters from hooligans. Don't forget, this protest is by Nigerians. The hooligans are Nigerians. The protest is not limited to any particular set. There's no group called protesters. Nigerians were asked to come out and protest. And the hooligans who came out are also Nigerians. So you have to view this in the concept of mob. When a mob is operating, they don't even know their own anymore. They can even act against their own members of the mob itself. So look at it from the point of view of a mob going into action. So some of these things, they are inevitable. Once you call up people to come out and do mass protest, it is already a mob. And some of these things are to be expected. And back to the issue of the Russian flag. What I wanted to emphasize is that for me, I saw it as an attraction. People were attracted to what is happening in Mali, what is happening in Niger, what is happening in this other country. So they are attracted to it, and they wish that something like that happened in Nigeria. They wish the military young military officers have taken over these three countries. They wish something like that will happen. And then going further, and don't remember, it's not Russia that instigated this. Those people are young, patriotic people. It's only after they took over and they had problems with the Western forces that were in their country. They challenged the French military. You have been in our country for so long. Your military is here. Why have you not solved the insurgency? So they could not answer. So they say, we will spare you. They spared them. They spared American forces. American forces have been in charge for more than 20 years. They are headquarters. They are operating in Niger. They have not stopped the insurgency in those places. So these people saw no reason why these people, and they expelled them. And then they called on Russia to help them. A lot of people in the north have family over there. They are seeing what is happening. So they were attracted to that. And it was an expression of that attraction that they started the issue of this Russian flag. But the government has to use it because they are looking for something to quell the protest. And even to ridiculous extent, you know, there are 6 Polish nationals that were arrested, I think, in Kano as being the sponsors of the Russian flags. That to me is somehow ridiculous. If you know Poland, Poland is an enemy, is the NATO, is an enemy of Russia. And within the Eastern Bloc, Poland is the spearhead of NATO against Russia. So to come here as a Polish citizen and instigate the flying of Russian flag does not make sense to me. So the only way I look at it is the way people sympathize and admire what happened in this thing. They wanted to show off. So we should not exaggerate that issue. However, the way it ballooned from a few flags, Russian flags in Kano, it ballooned into so many flags that even tailors were arrested for showing the flag. But of course, if you are a tailor and somebody in this hard condition that you are protesting hunger and somebody brings a cloth to show a Russian flag, will you not show it? I will show it and collect the money. After all, we are all looking for money to eat. What has the tailor that sold the flag done? He has not done anything criminal. But the government needs to hold something to use against the protesters, use oppressive means and say, look, Some foreigners are sponsoring this. They are sponsoring the overthrow of the government. I think it is an exaggeration. For me, that's the way I understand it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry to cut you short. Yes. Now, let me come in here. I agree with you, Barrister, your own from your own angle, completely, because that is just a picture of it. Nobody was actually inviting Russians to come take over Nigerian government. No. I think it was just they just wanted something that took place in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali to actually happen in Nigeria as well. As we all know, these three countries are doing well. Their economies are doing well now. These three countries are doing well. The military is taking the military juntas that are in charge in these countries are relatively doing well. Niger has been rated now as one of the fastest growing economy in the world since this was after the military took over. So that is just, I think that is what those Nigerians, whoever they are actually talking about. Where they're not saying Russia come take over. No, nobody is inviting Russia to take over government in Nigeria. That is just the reality. These three countries, they, just like Barrister said, they actually did it. They decided to do this themselves. And probably they thought, because usually, yes, as a country, you should always have a superpower behind you. And we have the West as one part of the superpower. And we have Russia and China on the other side of the superpower. So these three countries just believe the West have not done well so far after several decades. So why don't we try someone else? So when they took this bold step, because of course, the West is they are the godfathers of the democracy. So they knew quite all right that the West would not be in support of this. So they probably, and Russia is someone, there are countries that don't impose their ideology on you. They don't impose their idea. What they do is they just come in for mutual interest, sort of. So that is the way Russia acts, unlike the West, I've always been very critical of. The West always, when they come to the table, they want to impose. They come with all the giant strides. They want to impose their ideas, their ideology, their policies on you. Russia does not work that way, sort of. So we will come back to that because I made a video specifically for this. I think about 30 minutes or thereabout video. And I was very, very frank. I was very raw, very unglued there. I just said my mind. I think I will mirror or re-echo that same opinion on this show today. Now, let's talk about this issue of military takeover. Of course, people were protesting. We saw video of it. I think Shegu sent me some, and I don't know who forwarded some videos where you see the military working together with the protesters. They were actually working, and I saw one brigadier general who was in charge of the troops or whatever was actually having a kind of a dialogue with the protesters or whatever while they were hailing them and asking them to come. Asking them to come take over government, sort of. So, Barrister, you and I have discussed extensively on this show on this matter. So I know where you stand here. You know where I stand there, but I'll still ask, based on the latest development, what do you think about the current? Now, remember, during the Shagari regime, administration rather, we never, even though Shagari administration, everything was going haywire, it was going south, just like we have today. Today is even 100 times worse than that Shagari time. However, but that was what actually brought in the military. Things were going south. Shagari government was directionless, just like what we have with Tinubu government now. Shagari government, we did not know who was actually in charge then. He was the president, but we have other powerful ministers like Umar Diko or whatever. So, and so many other people around him in the kitchen cabinet that were powerful. So everything was going south. But at the same time, when the military took over, before the military took over, we had no such protests. We had no such clamor for military to come take over. The military, in their own wisdom, let me use that word, wisdom, they decided to intervene because they knew that things were going south. So they intervened. Unfortunately, excuse me, we all know what happened thereafter. Now, but this is a different scenario. People are literally protesting in favor of the military now coming to military taking over. People are no longer shying away from me. People are courageously they are making this public now. So that means that there is an obvious sympathy or support for the military. So, Barrister, what do you think of such support? What do you think of such clamor? Do you think it is cogent? Do you think it is worthwhile? Do you think it will be timely for military to actually take over?
Well, my view on military takeover has never changed. But let me say that there is no military takeover that does not have an element of civilian incitement. There's no single military takeover that is purely a military affair. It is always in conjunction with some civilians inciting the military to take over. The only difference this time is the ones you see are coming up in the public in form of masses to call the military to take over. In the past, you have highly placed civilians inciting the military to take over quietly behind the scene. But now you have masses coming up and saying, we want the military. Having said that, my position on military government has never changed. I have to distinguish a military government from a patriotic military government, because a military takeover for the sake of military takeover will not lead us anywhere. We have seen military rule in Nigeria that helped to put us in the position that we are today in Nigeria. As of today, the top echelons of the army are enjoying as much as the politicians. So you can virtually discount them because they are having good privileges today, just like politicians are having. The issue is, we have mentioned Burkina Faso, we have mentioned Niger, we have mentioned Mali. If we get a military government that does not aggregate to that, it will be a complete disservice, and it will make the situation worse rather than better. So I am always cautious to talk about military government, but I have been very clear that we are practicing a fraudulent democracy, and the criminal enterprise that is, or criminal mafia that have been ruling Nigeria in the form of democracy, I have no confidence in them that they will take Nigeria anywhere, because we have seen their antecedents, we have seen the policies. And I think there is an adage that says that the morning will show how the day will be. So if you do not make the hard work that the government does to produce good fruits, it's not there. We see it from their policy, we see it from their extravagance, we see it with from the way they spend our money recklessly. We see it with their resistance to accountability. We see it with the way they want to treat ordinary Nigerians who come out to protest. So when you see all these things, I discount the possibility of taking Nigeria forward under the current regimes or under the current atmosphere. But I'm also very cautious of rushing to say military government will be better, because I do not know the kind of military government that will come. It could even be worse than the civilian government. So let's be very cautious. But whenever there is a very patriotic set of Nigerians, be they military or civilian, they will have my support.
All right, thank you so much. Back to Segun before I make my own comment. I know, of course, most journalists, I've yet to find a journalist who ever support military government. But at the same time, I keep asking them. Now, because number one reason, I think if not the only reason why most journalists actually are critical of military government is this issue of freedom of press. And I usually ask them, in Nigeria, do we really have that freedom of press? Because why the military do their own forcefully and give you commands, hey, don't do this, you must not do this. The civilians, they don't do that. They first of all give you carrot, dangle carrot at you, and when you reject that carrot, then they'll just come for you and full force, a sort of full. So what is the difference between the military when it comes to the freedom of press, between the military and the civilian government? In Nigeria, though, in other developed or civilized clime, you have different scenario entirely, but we're talking about Nigeria right now. Because if civilians does exactly what military does, but in a different form, what makes it different? A sort of. So this brings me to my question. What is your opinion about this clamor for military to take over, Segun?
Well, we all agree, at least to some certain extent, that the kind of democracy we're practicing, especially in Nigeria, does not favor Nigerians, and it doesn't favor growth. What we see are a bunch of people who are competing against each other to find a way to get to power and, of course, decide for themselves how the country will be run. And this is not strange. Why? Because as it is, as a country, we don't seem to have a direction. We don't seem to have a policy that says this is how Nigeria should be governed and this is the direction to which we are going. The reason why anybody would want a military government is because the military government seems to be more decisive. They seem to be more focused on the drive and where they want to go to. What is it that you aim to achieve when you take over government? It is to, first of all, ensure that everybody is on the same page, driving towards patriotism. Then, of course, finding the right people, getting the right people with disciplined mind to take over and, of course, run the day-to-day affairs of the people. When the government of Buhari and Idiagmo took over in 1983, the trust of that government was discipline. That people are not disciplined and people embezzle money. And of course, if people are disciplined, that all of the things that we see would not happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people will tell you, economists will tell you, that our economy was ruined by that government then. Why? Because they don't seem to have a grasp of how the economy should be run, which was one of the main drives of the country. Then the lifespan of that government was cut short by the military junta under IBB, the man that was called Maradona, who would give you a little and take so much. And then at the end of the day, it became the order of the day for us. I think we are still finding it very difficult to understand ourselves, to understand the kind of government we need to operate as a people. If people will tell you that democracy was forced on us, but what is it exactly that we actually want to do? Because you must find something that is peculiar to you, that suits you, for you to be able to move ahead. While you were coming up with this idea of JIBRIN's angle, I'm sure you'd have toyed with a lot of ideas. Well, how do I have this program? Am I going to have a town hall meeting where people will call in? Am I going to just have panelists who sit down and I'll roll out my ideas? There will be so many ideas that will run through your mind before you concluded that, okay, this is how I'm going to start. Then from here, you expand. I don't think as a country we have that kind of plan. And that's one of the reasons why when everybody comes, they tell you, oh, look, this is a departure from the government that you used to know. And this government is going to do X, Y, Z, and they're going to do this and do that. Then at the end of the day, you find them doing what they said the other people were doing that made people vote them in. I am not against military government. I must tell you authoritatively from here that one of the governments that I think that has served Nigeria better were the military government, especially as bad as Abacha was. Abacha did so much for not just for Nigerians, but for our economy. A lot of people will disagree with you. Yes, he may not be the best. He embezzled a lot of money, looted money, and siphoned money. But we had one of the strongest currencies when he was president. The policy thrust of the government may not be going the right way. They may not be going the way Nigeria needed to go. But he looked inwards and he was beginning to build people who could export things outside this country because he didn't really rely on foreign countries to help develop his country. Why? He may not have so many friends, but he decided on his own that, look, one of the best ways to run this country was to look inwards and help the country develop on its own. Until and unless we find that right kind of style of government that suits us, we will continue to have these people that we have around who will come and tell you they are the best and their policy that you're a capital.
All right. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I think
okay.
the network is acting up.
Yeah, well, that was an interruption, but go ahead. I think I can hear you now. Finish up, please.
Okay, fine. So until and unless we find that right kind of style of government that suits us, we need to really sit down and
all right. I think Shegun is having issue with his network. Okay. All right. Let me take it up from there. From here, I think you've made your point actually. All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's safe to say that none of us on this platform, none of you, both of you especially, are objective of the military government. The only thing is just what you people, just mirroring what you said so far. What you desire is for Nigeria to be better. That is just it. Whichever way it is ruled or administered, the essence of that is just for us to get a better Nigeria. That is it. Okay. On that note, let me take let me make my point here. The truth is that from day one, I have never been a proponent of democracy. I have never been. There was never a time in my life. That's just the truth. Even I remember I was among those people who were excited when Buhari took over again took over government by force from Shagari, 1983. Then we're so excited. We went on the street to jubilate actually. I've never been. Honestly, for so obvious reasons. I think I wrote an article some few years ago about this in support of the military. Why I am actually in support of I prefer military government than the democracy. Now, one of the reasons is just what you walked around it earlier, Shegun. the thing is, democracy is not just, this is not who we are. If you go through African culture and traditions or whatever, the way we were ruled is more of the traditional way, the monarchical way or whatever. That's why I am one of those people who are so critical of how we have actually relegated our traditional rulers to the background, sort of, because these traditional rulers used to be the kings of those days, sort of. So they were the rulers actually. But today we have relegated them to local government level. So to the extent that it is only a local government chairman. In fact, they are now under local government administration, which is very, very, to me, is a slap on our faces, sort of. So democracy to me is it's a Western idea. It's a Western way of doing things, sort of. And this is, in fact, this topic is something I can spend hours talking about because I have so many angles to it. Why I think democracy is not just who we are. So that is just, it's a Western, like I said earlier, the West, wherever they go, they want to bulldoze their way through to the system. They want to force their way through to the system. That is the difference. That is why I rather deal with the Russians than deal with the West. Like that's not the truth. That is the West wants to impose their ideas on you. They want to impose their principles, regardless of environmental significance, differences, sort of. So they just bring in their ideas and they want to impose it regardless of your beliefs, your norms, the norms in your system, sort of. So that is a problem. Unlike the Russians, they always consider themselves an equal partner in anywhere they go. They believe in give and take, sort of. The West does not believe so. The West is by default they consider themselves as the bigger partner, the senior partner in every negotiation, and as such they come with a whole lot of demands here and there. They just give you a little and take so much out of you. And even the little they give to you, they want to teach you, they want to guide you, they want to direct you on how to manage that little. Sort of, they want to be involved in how you manage that little. And that is why anywhere you see the West, any country in Africa where you see the West being in charge of their policies, guiding their policies, go around, do your investigation. Those countries are not doing well. They are not doing well economically. They are not doing well security-wise. They are not doing well in so many facets. And so that is it. Then go to the countries where you see Russians. Russians having interest there as against the Western interest. The countries are more that, and that is why we are having this issue of these three countries now doing well, sort of. The Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they are doing well as a result of multiple factors, probably a couple or three factors is in play, sort of, which Russia is one of the factors, because Russia is they consider themselves as equal partners wherever they go to. They are negotiating, they see themselves as equal to you. All they need is give me and I take and give me too. That is a two-way street. So that is the way it should be, sort of. So that is one. That is why countries that are being supported by Russian policies, Russian partnership, they seem to do better, because the Russian policy is to allow you to do your thing. Why they are giving you, they don't want to, unlike the West, they don't want to, Russia does not want to be involved in how you manage that, what they give to you. What they give to you, the moment you agree, okay, take this and give me this, that thing they gave to you, they don't want to be the one managing it. You are independent, you'll be independent of their input. So that is just the way they, and that's why they wherever they find themselves, those countries seem to be succeeding, sort of, unlike the West. So you talked about Abacha. Honestly, I am of same opinion with you that Abacha seem to be, I think I would consider him the most patriotic military government in Nigeria then. He was actually very patriotic. He was against the West. We all know that during Abacha regime, the 5 years of Abacha, he never traveled out of the country. He never traveled to the West. No, I don't know, I can't remember. He traveled to some African countries. Yeah, he never traveled to the West. He sort of didn't travel to any part of the world, whatever. So because the West was critical of him, they were against him, and he was against them, and that was why they were critical. In fact, Abacha, first of all, he was the one who sowed that seed of, I don't like you guys. You guys are our enemy of progress. So we don't need you here, or whatever. So there was this body language and his policy that was against the West. So the West, by default, also retaliated by not liking him as well. And that's why I think they took him out. They were the one responsible for his death. Because Abacha, honestly, while he actually siphoned, he stole so much money, but at the same time, I believe, yes, no human being is perfect. I'm not happy he stole that money. I was critical of that, because that greed was just too much. However, he performed better than people like Babangida, who stole money, who didn't do anything. During Babangida regime, there was a lot of corruption. All those fraudsters were on rampage then, and so many bad things. Abacha came and kind of cleaned up, tried to actually clean up. During Abacha time, I remember during Babangida's time, there was this issue. That was when 419, this code 419 actually started flourishing. It flourished. It got to the peak actually. Abacha was the one who destroyed 419. He came in, and I remember then when he went on ramp, all those 419ers everybody went underground, and everywhere was insecurity. He quelled insecurity, and he quelled corruption. Yes, corruption. There is crime on the area of financial crime, so he didn't tolerate. Look, honestly, just like you noted, Abacha actually did a lot. That is just it. He actually did a lot. So back to my point. I honestly, I prefer 100%. Like I said, I've never supported democracy. I prefer military. And in line with what Barrister Manta said, a purposeful, patriotic military takeover is what I desire. Honestly, purposeful in the sense that, okay, just like what is happening in these 3 countries we mentioned, they are doing well. These are young officers, especially this Burkina Faso officer who is so I think about 32 years of age, so he's doing very, very well, for his country, so patriotic. He's not living large. He's living in a very prudent. His lifestyle is so prudent, so judicious rather. So the thing is, honestly, what I desire most or more for Nigeria is a decide, because I say democracy can even work for us, because the layers of government in democracy makes it difficult for even a very good president to do well. This is not this is a different topic for another day, because it's a very expensive topic. There are so many. Democracy is super expensive, too expensive for Nigeria. We are highly indebted, and this our level, the level we have gone deep in debt. The only thing that can actually pull us out of this debt is a military government, because democracy as it is today in Nigeria is extremely, overly expensive. It's out of place for us to be able to. No democratic rule, no democratic governance can actually bring us back. I am telling you, only a very patriotic and purposeful military government can actually, that's the only avenue Nigeria can actually get out of it. It's not just one factor. That is number one factor. Second factor is we have to eliminate the Western interest in Nigeria. That Western interest is killing Nigeria. It's killing Nigeria. It's killing so many African countries. We need to take that Western interest off. we need to, with that, after the military takeover, Western interests must be eliminated. Then we should have for protection, for national protection. Probably we have a deal. We should have a deal with Russia, so that at least one superpower to be on our to be behind us, in case of anything, so that no one can bully us. So that honestly is my point on that. So if Abacha could do that to an extent, what we need is someone who has Abacha's credential, but minus the Abacha's greed for corruption. The moment we can have these two things going for us, I think that Nigeria will be better for it. I don't know. Before we move to the next topic,
I want to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, we have there's a lot of, we have been harangued, and there's a lot of propaganda. So much so that the average Nigerian has come to regard democracy as the end in itself. Democracy has never been the end. It is one of several means to a fair and progressive society. So there are elements that underlie democracy, the absence of which will make it impossible for that democracy to be really democracy, or to bring about the development that is desired. One of which is an enlightened electorate. The second is a good economy. And the third is the absence of divisive factors like religious and ethnic divides. All of these are lacking in Nigeria. We don't have an enlightened electorate. We have ethnic and religious differences that have been brought to the highest level that compromise the ideas of democracy. So it is not going to be the vehicle for us to achieve development now and in the near future. That is why you find me calling it fraudulent democracy, because the elements that should make a proper democracy, that should bring development, are not there in Nigeria at all. We have only a self-serving and thieving political class. And once you have that one, there's no way that that democracy is going to translate to real development for that society. Then you now have to juxtapose it with the other form, military government, monarchical system, and all these other things. So people have come to think, and America and the West have harangued us so much democracy, as if that is the end. That is not the end. It's just the means for us to achieve development. But we see that it's not working.
Not working.
The 20-something years that we have tried it, we see that it is not working, and it's not going to take us to the promised land. On the other hand, it has brought us to the precipice. It has almost brought us to disintegration. So the earlier we sit down and reappraise how we govern ourselves, the better for Nigeria and other developing countries that have the same issues that we have. I do not have any confidence in the democracy we are practicing or any other democracy because of these factors that are prevalent in Nigeria today.
Yeah, thank you so much. You are right on point. I think I agree with you on that, So